Hello, my friends, and welcome to Life in Northern Virginia. My name is Cheryl Spangler. I'm a real estate broker, been one for a while. Today, we're going to talk about how to turn raw land into a family compound. If you've ever wondered how to take raw land and turn it into a family legacy, I helped a family do that this past week. Oh, I should say this past 30 days or more, but this past week, it came to a conclusion. They bought the land. They're so happy. And that makes me feel good because I helped them literally build their entire future that we're talking about, where they live now, where their kids will grow up, every bit of entertainment they do on this parcel. And with all that, it weighs heavy on me to give the right information. So I normally am a research junkie. So I closed on a 55-acre, two parcels totaling 55 acres for a family that wanted each child to have their own piece of land. I just kind of uploaded the survey once it was done to Canva, and we kind of played around with the separating of this land. And this land is located in Fauquier County. That's about all I'm going to give as far as the people's information. But the regulations that I'm going to talk about are from that county. But you can go do some research in any county, and it might be very similar, but you should do your own research. If it's not something you're buying in Fauquier County, Virginia, you should go do your own research. So depending on the zoning, the biggest thing that will keep you from subdividing, before I go back and talk about the compound and the growth of family compounds, is insane. You should know that the zoning will determine how many times you can subdivide a property. Almost immediately, without even looking up or calling the zoning department, I can tell you, whether it can or can't, but it is not up to me as a real estate agent to tell you that. You have to do one of two things. You either have to call into the zoning office and ask them if it can be subdivided. Most likely, they will tell you an offhanded comment of, could possibly be, but you should submit a subdivision approval letter. And this is basically a form that you fill out and you snail mail in with $100 check made to the county treasurer. And within 8 weeks, you will get a letter back that's called a subdivision approval letter, and it will identify exactly how many times you can subdivide it, which ways you can subdivide it, the parcel sizes that are allowed, and if there's any reserve, or what's called a residual lot. If there's any residual lot, which means some portion of that property that has to be maintained as you keeping it together. So let's just say, if 55 acres, the subdivision approval letter could potentially say that 40 acres of it needs to stay in a residual lot, meaning in an entire lot of its own. And the remaining acreage can be split into 2 or 3 or 4 lots. And in this case, it could be subdivided into 3 additional lots, totaling 4, 1 residual and 3 lots. So with that information, the next step is to say, okay, let's get a survey. Let's get a soil guy out there. Let's find out how many homes can be put on this lot if it's not public water or sewer. How many septic fields can it actually perk for? Let's set aside what is a perk and how that all works to another podcast. But basically, you need a soil engineer, which should, by the way, only cost about $600 for someone to go out, stick a rod in the ground and whatever, basically tell you whether it perks for a septic field. And if so, you will need multiple septic fields. Then at the time they do that, they can give you a ballpark of what that would cost. In this scenario, let's just go with, because I know the prices, if you're public water sewer, then you just pay a tap fee. Now that tap fee is different for every county. If I'm getting too granular for you, let me just give you the umbrella of this. You buy a piece of land, you can't just go put an RV on it while you break ground. You have to get a survey, get a soil guy, contact the county, figure out the zoning, identify whether it's on a public or private road. If it's on public, you have to have so many feet road frontage in order to subdivide. Otherwise, you have to take a road right down the middle of that parcel, and then branch each house off of it. The problem with doing that is that if you have more than 2 homes off of one road, now again, we're referring to the county I talked about, Fauquier County. It might be different in others, but I think it's pretty similar. If you have more than 2 homes off of one road that you make into your new land, more than 2, you have to do a major site plan, which requires more gutters, more common space, a cul-de-sac at the end for people to turn around. I mean, you're into like a big subdivision if you have 3 or more homes. So the goal for me was to help them break this land up, meet the guidelines of the road frontage, and allow each child or adult child to have at least 3 acres, and keep within the guidelines of the subdivision approval letter and what it stated, like the reserve, and allow for some future time that they may want to basically sell off a piece or two and not have it affect their existing home life. What I mean is, if the property has enough road frontage, you might want to make a couple lots with their own individual road off of that public road, and then one road into the property that 2 homes go off of. Because number one, only 2 homes off a road means minor site plan, less money out of pocket, and faster time frame for approval, meaning 30 to 45 days. More than 2 homes off one road means major site plan, more money, more survey, more engineering, curbs, gutters, a cul-de-sac, and probably more like 60 to 90 to 120 days for approval. All of this prohibits people from doing things. So what I'm saying is, design your family compound in a way that takes the least amount of money out of pocket to a surveyor, allows you to sell off a piece if you want in the future to retail, meaning just anyone, not within a family subdivision, just to be able to subdivide and then sell to anyone at any time. And to also reduce the site planning, because counties get really weird and they take a really long time if you're doing a major site plan and it's considered a subdivision. So that was the task at hand, and such great collaboration with this buyer who was so knowledgeable also. And his goal was, of course, different from me just trying to help him reduce costs and sell off something maybe in the future. His goal was to have everyone live on this land with their own independent home, their own independent parcel, put this entire piece of land into a trust, after subdivided, deed each piece to each adult child, have them use that deeded piece of land to go get a construction to perm loan. And I feel like I'm already saying too much jargon, but basically, if you're thinking that you either have a piece of land already or you want to create something like this, please reach out to me. If you are in Virginia, if you're in Fauquier, even better, because I can tell you right away all the ins and outs. But I don't decide this myself. I'll still reference everything: the zoning, the department, the regulations, the approval letter. I mean, it's a lot of work. It probably took 60 days just to be able to get to the point of putting it on the market, to allow someone to come in and say, hey, I want to subdivide that and put my whole family on here. And we had a starting point already. The starting point was that, we already knew how many parcels it could be subdivided into, and I had already done the research. So I would love to help anyone who's thinking of putting all of their adult family members into one piece of land and either subdivide it out into what's called a family subdivision or into just a regular subdivided piece of land that the family can use, or you can just sell to anyone later with no restrictions. So let me know what you think about this. Let me know what you think about compound living. About, 3 years ago, my son said something like, I want to build a family compound. And I remember thinking, like, you're listening to Andrew Tate and his family compound stuff? And yes, he was. But also, I was like, that is so wild that someone under age 24 would say, I want to build a family compound. And he's already thinking, like, I want my parents nearby, maybe to watch my kids. I want my parents nearby, but not too close. I want them in their own home, but I want them on the same land. He wants to be able to run over and have dinners together. And in the case of this family that bought recently, they wanted to have yet another building, a fifth building. And that building, in addition to the homes, would be like the entertainment space. So instead of like when you get married, you have to go pay, I don't know, anywhere, it ranges, but anywhere from $7,500 to even $30,000 to rent a beautiful space for a wedding or reception. You won't have to. It will be right there on your land, and it can be dolled up as much or as little as you want, which is pretty cool. So they had a lot of neat ideas that I enjoyed learning. And if you want some more ideas on a family compound idea that you have, or if you're thinking that you would want to do a family compound by adding an ADU to an existing home and property you have, ADU standing for accessory dwelling unit, which is like blowing up in every single county in Virginia and everywhere else. And I'll tell you why in another podcast. Let me know what you think and what your situation is. Comment on this video if you're on my YouTube, or if you're listening to this in audio on my podcast, comment or reach out to me. hello@CherylSpanglerTeam.com.